It's a good day. What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark, MegaMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today we're gonna go with the flow. Whoa. A few people will get that reference. It's Flow, and it has audio description. This is Flow, a second look. The movie finally got audio description. Shout out to I'm gonna go with Warner Brothers Discovery on this one. I don't think Sideshow Janice paid for it. I think it's either WBD. I noticed at the beginning of it because of thank you to audio description. Criterion got credited on the digital that's floating on Max right now. Criterion does have audio description on some DVDs, but not wide enough for me to make me believe that they paid for an original audio description track because my God, the amount of content that Criterion would be able to audio describe if they cared that much about it. What makes the most sense is WBD here because, well, they had Drive My Car a few years ago, which didn't have audio description until it made its way to Max. So, the same could be said for last year's Studio Ghibli movie, which released theatrically without audio description, The Boy and the Heron, which won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. It did not get audio description until it ended up on Max. So I think this is thanks to WBD. So they're getting the props on this. The funny thing about this was that just a few days ago, I've been going through my Netflix March Madness and I reviewed the movie Worth. And I heard Liz Gutman doing narration, which surprised me because I think of her primarily as a writer. And I wrote to her and I was like, wow, I had no idea that you did narration. And she's like, yeah, not always. I don't always like the sound of my voice. I had no idea. She just like stealthily, she gave me no heads up that she's also doing the narration on Flow. So I turned this on and having just heard her just a couple days ago, I was less surprised by it because so I was able to be like, yeah, that's Liz. So from the beginning of the movie, I was like, yeah, that's Liz. I bet she wrote and narrated. Yep, she wrote and narrated Flow, which kind of helps the process a little bit when you're trying to get a track out quickly for something that's already been out, because Flow's been on Max. It debuted on Max without audio description. So obviously WBD they needed a rush job. And if you limit the amount of people who have to touch a project, I mean, she's already seen the project. So for her, since she has to write the narration for it, if she's comfortable narrating it as well, it just saves time. So what a time saver to be able to get her to do both. But it's just sort of puts the whole tour de force on her because, God, what a movie to narrate. It's Flow. It's the winner for animated feature. So it's going to attract attention. Like, blind people have been waiting to see Flow because there's no dialogue to it. So, like, it's literally unwatchable. I already have a review that I caught a bit of a fire. I've got a couple hundred reviews on it, which is pretty good for my channel. Um, so, of me complaining about the lack of audio description on Flow because I was submitted Flow initially through its, for your consideration campaign, and I sat through it. And it's just like listening to animal noises the whole time and kind of distressing and not really understanding and having no context. And then finally I got context and it's like, wow, so that's what Flow is. I still would have voted for the Wild Robot. um, but I don't hate Flow. It's not a bad movie. I just now I have more context and I still both The Wild Robot and Inside Out 2 made my top 28 films of 2024. Flow would not, and I would not I would put Flow in third. Like, I think Flow is probably competing with Memoir of a Snail for that third place spot. So, yeah, uh, it's it's an adorable little movie and about a cat that goes on an adventure during what is, I don't know, the apocalypse. Noah. I had so many different thoughts about this because we don't really see a whole lot of advanced technology, but we see things that are built clearly by humans. So humans existed at some point. There's like a cat statue. Um, there's some spire thing that's built. There's a like a bell tower. There's an amphitheater, but they're none of them are necessarily like super recent things. You know what I'm saying? The Latvians here didn't go for super modern things. They went for things that could have been years ago. So this could be biblical, like Noah's the Great Flood and like what happened. I think, I guess, sort of like spoilers in here because I have to talk about one thing. What happened to the bird? Like, did it ascend to heaven? Is that what that was? That's what I'm thinking is like, is this biblical? I did not I did not follow that at all. Did he get beamed up? Did E.T. go home? I don't I don't know. There's a scene in the movie where cat and bird, they don't have names because they don't speak, are at the top of this spire and then they start floating off the ground. And I don't mean that the bird is flying. I mean like literally like he's like floating, like he's being elevated. And eventually like the bird continues up and the cat is let back down. And I'm like, did is is that death? Or did it get beamed up? D- what was happening? I'm so confused there. Um and I don't think it's the audio description. I just think it's because there's no dialogue to explain. Like, do animals have religion? Would they even know? Like, if they were going to heaven? I don't know. I like that's probably the one scene if you were to be like, why didn't you vote for best picture? I'd be like, I don't know what that means, and it makes me like I can't because it could mean one of two things, and then I don't it and one of them I think has a greater implication um on the rest of the movie because like there's a huge flood and then there's not a flood and then I'm like, is this Noah? You know what I'm saying? Like the waters rise and then the waters fall. And it kind of feels like this could be a like a what happened to the rest of the animals who didn't make the ark, you know? It feels like that could be what this movie is. I haven't heard anything from the filmmakers. They made this using free software, which is kind of amazing that they were able to do this. This was a very independently made film. Um, and when I commented on this the first time, the lack of audio description, somebody came in and was like, yeah, the filmmakers wanted to put audio description on it. They just didn't have the budget for it. It's like, you know that specifically? That's amazing. It's amazing that you've talked to the filmmakers directly about English audio description on their film. And they told you specifically that they wanted to be able to do this, but they ran out of money while they were having an Oscar campaign. Uh, so they weren't able to put audio description on their movie. They had to pay the publicity team to get their film to the Oscars so that WBD could pay for the audio description because Sideshow Janice was not going to do it. Audio description is not that expensive. I mean, there are independent films that have much smaller budgets and they allot for audio description to be produced for their films. I have seen some very small, low budget films that have managed to have audio description tracks, like micro budget films. So when I see a film campaigning for the Oscars and they're trying to tell me they don't have the money for it, I kind of roll my eyes. You know, like, yeah, I'm sure you didn't. Yeah. Let me show you this micro budget film that's on YouTube that has audio description. You know, like, I don't know. Anyway, Um, but I think the audio description is excellent. I mean, it's the way that uh, the personalities for these animals is brought out is really good, considering they clearly have personalities. Eventually, I mean, the cat joins a capybara, which is so interesting. I was like, oh man, that's really specific because capybaras are not on every continent of this planet. So, and then later on, we picked up a lemur, um, which had me thinking. I was like, okay, so where in the hell in the world are we? Carmen San Diego. And I mean, the other things were like bird, dog, so there were like more common things that we were picking up along the way. Uh, and then there's this sea monster that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So, I lost all concept of where we were or if this was Earth. That's why I was thinking about the alien thing. I was like, is this another planet that happens to have animals that are like ours? Is this the future? Is this the past? Is this where are we? So, um, but yeah, the description, there are other dogs that show up, and the description, the differences between the dogs, there are other birds. So there's like our bird, and they're like the other birds, and the description of what happens when there are more birds in one sequence, I thought was pretty solid. Um, but yeah, they have sort of humanistic characteristics to them where they sort of react to each other, like they're able to sort of understand each other silently without being able to talk. It's very interesting. Um, I it's again, I yeah, not my favorite movie of the year. I'm not gonna bash it. It's like an hour and a half. So it was a pretty easy watch. Um, I get why this would have an Academy Award when you think about like David versus Goliath and you think about somebody who has nothing going up against like a Pixar and a DreamWorks animation release. I do kind of wonder though if it's going to hold up or if we're going to end up regretting it in 10 years because The Wild Robot feels like the kind of movie that has legs, that has longevity. I don't know if Flow has that. Um, we've had some films before that have cracked into the Oscar race and they've been critical darlings and they've been indie animated gems. And I'm sure they have fans. I could list films like Waking Life and Anomalisa right now, and people will be like, oh, yeah, those are good movies. Did you think about them before I brought them up? When was the last time you thought about Waking Life or Anomalisa? So, um, they could be like that. So, I don't know. But then again, I think we also gave a featured nomination to Boss Baby, so we don't always, But I just think, yeah, the animated feature may not 10, 20 years from now we may be looking at it and going, why did the Wild Robot lose this category? Like sort of like we look at Saving Private Ryan versus Shakespeare in Love and we're just like, I don't understand. Those people were on crack back then. You're telling me that guy that's in prison used to have power and was powerful enough to to be able to get that movie to beat Saving Private Ryan? What? Like, it's so hard to explain that to people nowadays. But Flow is delightful enough that I don't think it's going to shock too many people. I liked it better than Wallace and Gromit, and since I finally got audio description for Memoir of a Snail, uh, I, I, I don't know. I mean, part of me kind of thinks the cat's adorable enough. I think Memoir of a Snail is probably the better script, but Flo has this adorable lead character in this cat that is cute and does a lot of things, and I understand, especially for cat people, like I get why you like this movie. So, or capybara people, because this would also be a big film for people for fans of capybaras. I mean, some people do have as pets. True story. So shout out to Liz for some excellent audio description in both writing and narration. And also, she's excellently cast here. Her vocal tone is just light enough that I would say she's good for a kids movie. It doesn't feel like it's dark. It feels like it's engaging. So if I mean for a movie like this that really is sort of aimed at a family audience, I think this is something that will keep kids engaged in a movie that has no audio description or visuals for them to be engaged with. It's almost like storytelling at this point because there's nothing else to really capture except for like a sound design. So yeah, I think she engages the kids really well. I think International Visual Center produced another rapid fire audio description track. They also had to do that last minute Emilio Perez track, and it's amazing. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I'm giving Flow finally an A minus. I'm a little confused by just the film in general and like where its places and if it's aliens. Is it in the past? Is it in the future? Is it on a different planet? Like stuff like that. I feel like they introduced a lot of cool ideas so that they could confuse us and they wanted to show that there were humans there, but at the same time, I didn't really feel like that they definitively answered a question to the extent at which I was like, oh yeah, I get it. I completely, it's definitely this thing and not this other thing. Uh, and I think it's really interesting to open up a theological conversation in a film only with animals. We talk about things like the Rainbow Bridge, you know, crossing the Rainbow Bridge. We wonder, are there pets in heaven? Will my dog meet me in heaven? I think it's a great conversation to have, and I'm not saying it's a bad one, but at the same time, um, it just kind of feels like it also could be aliens, and they just wanted the bird. So, I don't know. Um, but thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the other side.